I'm on the West Coast doing some work and research and other things, and as usual I thought you might want to see, you know, a little bit of the sights here. It's always exciting to me. As I've always said, I love the ocean and I love mountains, and I thought you'd want to see this before I get started. Very windy, so it's going to be hard to hear if I talk. I'll see if I can find a place that's guarded from the wind. Well, I've tried to find a place a little bit out of the sea breeze, and even though I want you to still hear the waves if possible, at least it won't drown me out. I hope not. I want to start out here by saying that I was given or sent a text with a YouTube video which was only about 20 seconds long, and what it purported to be was President Obama saying that the people can't be dependent upon to take care of themselves anymore, that they should give up their rights and no longer be sovereign. And so, having some suspicions but still concerned that the message might be true, he apparently gave this talk in Belgium to one of the EU conferences there. I did send the text on forward and asked people to check it, and if it was true, to make sure that other people got a hold of it. Well, that was about 2 days ago, and I've been in a place where I can't get access to an internet. So today I drove, found a place that I could use and watch the video myself. And needless to say, of course, the video that was first sent to me, which was only about 20 seconds long, was basically a splice and chop job trying to make President Obama saying something he did not say. So I wanted to go on record because, you know, this man and this administration and the world leaders do enough evil that we don't need to make these kinds of things up. And I wanted to set the record straight on that when I recognize that something like that's happened, I'm not going to let it go any further, and that was the case here. It's called something like President Obama addresses the the European Union in Belgium, something like that. And they're basically the video where he actually gives the entire speech that's about 36 minutes long, and then this splice hack job. Now the question is, who would do something like that? Well, it could be a joke, it could be any number of things, but it could also be, you know, this is another old trick. You know, you make your own guy look bad so that it causes a stir, and then you come out with the real speech. It's sort of like what happened to Bundy. Remember that? They took out some pieces and bits on his speech that he gave and made him look like a racist, when in actuality the speech was entirely different. So we have to be careful with these things. Don't trust anything you hear, and it's getting to the point where you can't trust anything you see. You have to verify everything. So I don't know who did this. It could have been, like I said, a clown job, a joke. It could have been somebody that dislikes Obama, or it could have been a setup to try to make people in the alternative media or those against Obama look foolish. Either way, we need to always verify information that's given to us. That's one reason why I use a decision matrix when I'm doing my all-source data collection. Okay, I just wanted to say that up front here because I thought that was kind of important. I did send out a text warning everybody that that 20-minute video or 20-second video was a splice hack job phony. So we need to follow up on those things when we make a mistake. Well, that's the first thing I wanted to say, and I'm going to change scenery here a little bit during this video, and it'll probably be kind of long because I'm using it kind of like a sightseeing thing for myself and for you. I wanted to talk a little bit about Israel. You know, we're getting a lot of people taking both sides, for Israel and against Israel and for the Palestinians and all this. And they're citing anti-Semitism if you don't go along with everything Israel does, and of course you're being called a hate monger and a racist if you side with Israel or with the Palestinians. Well, let me hasten to add that just like in the Ukraine, as we've seen, the first casualty of war is truth. In Ukraine, the United States has obviously lied about the Malaysian airliner that was purportedly shot down. It's now looking like it was an air-to-air missile, which is what we suspected to begin with, because the rebels did not have BUKs or any other kind of surface-to-air missile that they're referring to, at least not in the position that was originally claimed. And the U.S. intelligence, not even intelligence, the administration has been using social media. And you see and I brought that up just a second ago to show you how even with social media you need to be careful. And here we have the administration using something that they take out of the social media to bolster their position, which turns out to be incorrect. So there's a perfect example. We can't do it and figure that we're doing the right thing, and certainly the government can't do it. And I know for a fact that intelligence information is not lending credence to Obama and the United Nations and NATO's claims on what's happening to that airliner. Russia is closer to the truth. Again, you know, there's propaganda on both sides. This truth is the first casualty of war. This is the bullets before the bullets, and it's very typical. But of course, in my estimation, lying in any way, shape, or form on these issues is wrong, because we're either right or we're wrong, and if we're wrong, we need to say so and apologize, not risk millions of lives just so that we get what we want. And I think I feel that way about that. So getting back to Israel here, there's this situation where, and I'm not saying that Hamas and these other organizations that are against Israel, at least on the surface, are a good thing. I'm against all of that altogether, okay? However, there are some mitigating circumstances here, and I just want to mention this, okay? I'm not going to take a side on this. This warfare between, supposed warfare between Israel and the Palestinians is a tribal thing, and it's been going on for thousands of years, all right? If they're the people they say they are. And in the case of the Palestinians, they probably are. But I'm going to say this, and I know it's going to get a lot of people upset again, but I have to say it. If Israel is the nation that God set apart for the Jews, and of course that's kind of a misnomer, because the Jews, Judahites, if they're true Judahites, are only one tribe out of the nation of Israel. There are 11 more, right? So Israel's supposed to be a gathering place for the Jews. Well, how about the rest of Israel if you're going to call it Israel? That's the first problem. And I know there's been this thing about calling everybody from the house of Israel Jews, but that's really not the case, all right? There's been a lot of propaganda, a lot of historical revision on that whole situation over there. John Voight brought up the fact that the UN, settled this supposedly by giving the Israelis their land in the 1948 time period, and of course the Palestinians. And even that argument, as much as I like John Voight, it really begs the question. And the question is this, and I'm just going to say it, okay? And it's not anti-Semitism. It's not. It's historical, and it's factual, and we can prove it, okay? And I've done that in my research, and in the book The Crimson Thread, which isn't a great novel, but it gets to the historical root of the matter. Now, if Israel is the true nation set apart by God in the last days, at this point, I'm not saying that God couldn't use it and mold it into something else later, but as it sits right now, it does not abide Torah. Okay? It doesn't. And there are Orthodox Jews that will tell you that. And that's why I brought up this situation about them doing what they're doing to the Palestinians. Showing no mercy, no loving kindness. Remember, I've said this how many times? If you are Abraham, if you are Abraham's seed, children, you will do the works of Abraham. And they are not. They are not. Plain and simple. Okay? They are not. If they were, they'd abide by Torah, and they'd use loving kindness. And if they did have to get into a war like Abraham did for the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah to save his nephew, Lot, it would be done in a way that is, yes, it would have to be violent, yes. But it's going to be done with loving kindness as its major motivation for the right reason. One of the requirements of Torah is that you give your enemy a way out. Okay, yeah, there were times when God told them to utterly destroy everything. But that certainly is not the case in this situation. Okay, and they have nobody there, no prophet that is telling the King David, who should be there if this thing was working correctly, what God wants. And even then I would be careful. You know, I think it was Voltaire that said, and I might have that wrong, but I think it's Voltaire that said, if you can convince people to believe absurdities, you can convince them to conduct atrocities. And we see that in the name of religion at all times. Abraham was the example of loving kindness. He was the friend of God. He treated everyone, even his enemies, when it came time to save Lot. All he did was he asked for tribute when he'd finally defeated them, and he paid 1/10 of that to the high priest Melchizedek, which is an interesting name because it means king priest, for those of you who don't know Hebrew. Okay, so it's not anti-Semitic to insist that if Israel is who they are, that they abide by Torah, okay? Because that's what they claim they are. So if you're going to claim something, do it. And if you don't, then you're manifestly not what you claim you are. By their fruits you will know them. All right? And I suppose I have to add here that if you say that I'm an anti-Semite because I'm critical of the Jews, well, I'm in pretty good company, aren't I? Jeremiah, Isaiah, etc., who constantly told the Jews what they were doing wrong and called them to repentance. Another way to put it is, as if God is speaking, if you do as I say, then you have my promise. But if you do not as I say, you have no promise. To be called his people, you have to have the law written in your heart and in your mind, and do the works accordingly. For faith without works is dead. So if you do not the works, then you cannot claim the blessings. And God is not bound. Am I saying that Israel doesn't deserve the right to survive as a nation? No, of course not. Of course they deserve the right for that. But you Christians out there and Jews and everybody else, you better look at this thing real hard. And I'm going on the record for this, and I don't mind, okay? If you don't do the works of Abraham, you are not Abraham's children. All right? Plain and simple. If you're a friend of Abraham's and a friend of God, you will do Torah, and you're not. So manifestly, you are not the Israel that God promised to be brought forth in the last days, if you believe the Judeo-Christian tradition. I always give you a way out. All right. So, no, I don't approve of what Israel's doing right now. Most of this, like I said, look what the U.S. did in Ukraine. Look what the U.S. did in Syria. Again, I'm not saying that the organizations that stand against Israel don't conduct raids on them and do these other things. But a lot of what happens over there is so that Israel can continue with its own military-industrial complex. War is the food. is the blood of the state. It is the sustenance of the state. And they misuse it all the time. Always, always claiming to liberate somebody. As I've said before, the worst tyrants in history claimed that they were going to liberate a people, and then they killed them. Israel, Netanyahu, all of you in the Knesset there, and certainly the Orthodox Jews who know what I'm talking about. You know, if you lie about who you are, God will visit you. And right now, your track record isn't going too well. All right? Well, enough philosophizing and sermon preaching on that. I'm going to talk some Hebrew again in the future. I thought that was kind of interesting how we broke down the word America, okay? You know, the Old Testament, the Torah in particular, was written without punctuation marks, paragraphs, those types of things. And to understand the different levels of Hebrew meaning, you can break down the words in different segments. You can break down the letters. You can break it down to mean different things. And that's not a bad thing if you know what you're doing. It can give you inside information. That's basically what the prophets did. That's basically what the rabbis even do today. So while there are places on the web, on YouTube in particular, where you can go and find out some of these things, I'm going to bring some of that up. I gave you a taste on the name America and the transliterations of like king to Melech. But I'm going to do a little bit more because, you know, we're so rigid. Christians in particular are so rigid in what they think is true that they're willing basically to crucify Christ again to be right. All right? That's where you're going with a lot of this stuff when you insist that your interpretation be exactly as you say it is. When in fact, the scriptures, even the New Testament, are written to give different levels of meaning. Paul said he went to the third heaven. All right? Pardes, which is the root word for paradise, is actually an interpretive technique on different levels of meaning in the scriptures. So we'll do a little bit of that, a little bit more sometime in the future, just so you know. Like I say, there are a lot of places you can go to find out about that, but I want you to know that I'm aware of it. And again, you know, being critical of anyone who is doing wrong is not anti-them, okay? It's not anti-Semitism to say, Jews, you need to do the right thing. You need to do it right. Everyone has a right to self-defense, but how far are you going to take it and for what purpose? Those things we have to examine and be willing to call it what it is. Just like the U.S. is dealing in aggressive wars and empire building and punishing people who won't get into the Western banking system, thus there's a situation going on in Israel that's very similar to that on a smaller scale. All right, I'm going to leave that one for now, okay? We probably ought to talk a little bit more about what's happening here in the United States, especially the border situation. I want to reiterate that I'm in an area right now where there are a lot of people from Central and South America that come here to work, and they're good people. I look at their families, and they're happy. They laugh and they play together. Even when they're working, they love each other, and they do so many wonderful things. I don't particularly like all of the culture because I'm not one of them, but I certainly appreciate a great deal of it. We're not talking about the people that want to come here and do what's right on this whole invasion thing that's going on. But unfortunately, our government, particularly Obama, but this has been going on for some time, and I did that documentary back in 2011 to show you. This is not an accident. This isn't because of things being bad in Central and South America that these people are coming up here now. That's always been bad down there. We were free of a lot of that until the drug war started. Interesting, isn't it? Remember I said in Borders, is it a drug war or is it an insurgency? Is the drug war the reason to expend tax money to build up these agencies and to actually fund an insurrection? You know, an insurgency in different parts of South America, and particularly in Mexico. And now we have those people coming across the border. I saw a thing the other day talking about the children, again diverging a little bit. You know, they supposedly left a violent place in South America, Central America, Honduras, and then they're sent to Chicago. Oh my gosh. Now that was a good idea, feds, real good. This isn't about helping anybody, folks. This, you know, they're bringing you people here, and when I say you people, there's no disrespect there, okay, because I'm stuck here too, okay? They're getting us here to bring us under control, more control. To destabilize the country, to cause a lot of different problems. And one of those is not just the economics of trying to take care of these people. It's also allowing, as I've said before, many times, they're actually assisting militarily trained units, people, insurgents, under the cover of being drug dealers. Okay, and they're not just drug dealers. A lot of these people are actually militant insurgents coming here, and this is going to be a problem. They've done it in Mexico, and they're going to do it here. Now, I'm not fooling myself. As I've said before, these things were all started primarily or taken over by Western intelligence services. Okay, I saw another thing the other day where people are starting to talk about that possibly the intelligence services are running the government. Hey, the CIA spying on the Senate, and then Obama saying, hey, it's okay, don't worry about it. Brennan, I understand, I can't prove this right now. I understand he may have converted to Islam. Wow. You know, Americans, you need to wake up. You don't need to be stiff-necked. You don't need to be prideful. But you need to be aware. You know, do you want to stand for liberty and the pursuit of happiness, the freedom, the sovereignty, the liberty of the individual, the right to life? Or do you just want to bury your head in the sand and let them do whatever they're going to do? Because it's not going to end well for any of us if you do that. And I've been on record saying that for a long time. So again, this is really bad. I've got friends down on the border right now that are watching all this unfold. Armed units are coming across. You've heard about the firing, automatic rifle fire on Border Patrol members, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse, and it's going to head inland. It's going to head into the main part of our country. And you think the drug war has been bad, like in Chicago and places like that. Hey, it's just getting warmed up. Nobody's going to be safe. And then they're not going to let you protect yourselves. They're going to use this along with, you know, the Ebola outbreak or whatever, you know, everything they manufacture to convince you to give up your liberties for protection. And you're not going to get either. They're not going to let you protect yourself. Again, look what they're saying to these militia guys down there. You know, the militia is doing a great thing down there. I don't know exactly, you know, as I've said before, I think that the objective is near impossible for them to accomplish for lots of reasons. But the fact is they're there trying. The federal government gave up. Okay, they can't do the job. They admit it. They don't want to do the job. That's why. All right. The Border Patrol is certainly capable. It's just that they've been hampered on I mean, even their administrators are in on this deceit from the administration and the establishment. It's disgusting. But they've had decades to get their people in place to pull this off. Anyway, so we have these militia guys down there, you know, trying to stem the tide, and my hat's off to them. Of course, the National Guard and what is left of the Border Patrol on the border. Most of them are inland, harassing us or taking these illegal immigrants, you know, to different places around the country, transporting them. The real job isn't getting done, but. We do need to secure those borders and have a system whereby those who help our nation to progress, not just, you know, low-wage earners or voters, people that can actually help the nation to get here. I was reading the other day where, and I don't recall where he's from. He was studying to be a doctor. Actually, I know a person like this personally who was from South America and studying to be a doctor, and he was having the hardest time becoming a citizen, and yet now we're letting people with no skills, no nothing, coming across for free. You know, with no oversight at all. What, the court date 3 to 5 years down the road? Yeah, right. So all of that is wrong, And I'm going to reiterate again here also. Isn't it interesting that under this globalization thing and under national security, Bush pushed this thing where you need to have a passport to go to Mexico or Canada, right? Americans need that. These people coming across the border don't even have any ID at all. So again, you see that all of this was about controlling the American people. Not about protecting you folks. It's not about that. It's about protecting the establishment, the small number of elite that are robbing us blind, meaning the banksters, of course, and we've talked about that before, and all of their puppets. All right, well, I'm going to move on to another site here for right now. You know, I was told today or yesterday, they said, hey Roy, you know, you need to just go relax. You know, you've been doing this stuff for so long, you just need to get out and go to a place and just kind of enjoy yourself. And so here I am, but you know, I feel that when I have a period of time, a little window of opportunity where I can put something out, that I probably should. Okay, we're going to move along here. Almost got wet on that one. And of course, I would probably be remiss if I did not mention the effects of Fukushima, which is one of the reasons why I'm here. You know, there is still a huge die-off going on in the Pacific of sea life. And they're trying to blame it on everything else other than the obvious. I had a friend that once told me, I may have quoted him here before, don't argue with the obvious. And the obvious is that there is bioaccumulation of radiation in different species, and it's going from the plankton into the fish of various sizes. The plankton's dying off, and the fish are trying to move to other places to get their sustenance, and as a result of the sea life is trying to do that, and as a result they're dying off in mass numbers. Now, part of the Fukushima debris has landed here on the west coast, but not this far south where I am. It's mostly north of here. But I have noticed an absolute absence of the normal life that's here at this time of year. So things are happening, and I just wanted to bring that up. You know, they go after the little people for doing little things that actually don't hurt the environment, but it's just a matter of control. And then something like Fukushima, which can endanger everyone, they basically ignore it. And if you bring anything up about it, you're a conspiracy theorist. Yet I know people here in this area that will not eat the seafood that they take from the sea. All right, well, I wanted you to know I'm at Bodego Bay, California, which is where Alfred Hitchcock filmed the movie The Birds. And I'm at the place where, well, this is the Tides restaurant. This was in the movie. Of course, it's been rebuilt because it burned down. But here it is. This is Bodego Bay. This is where they filmed The Birds. This was the Tides restaurant. The town is kind of up on the hill behind me. But of course, much of the movie was made with the bay in the background. And that's kind of what I wanted you to see here. You might recognize some of this from the movie. Maybe. Let's see if you can. I remember her Tippi Hedren getting in a boat off the wharf, which would be to my left, and going across to a house across the bay. And it looks so far in the film. And of course, now that I'm here, it's actually not that far across. Well, I suppose by a small boat it would be. But yeah, this is it. This is Bodego Bay, where they filmed the movie The Birds. Okay, I'm in the back of the Tides here now and looking across the bay again. Now, the part of the town that they did the movie from would probably be directly behind me, opposite the bay here. But I'm not going to go up into town there and, you know, look around. Most of all that, there might be some original buildings, but I'm not going to look for them. Okay, now we're in Bodega town, I guess is what it is. It's about 3 or 4 miles from the bay, but you might recognize these buildings behind me. This is the schoolhouse. If you remember when Tippi Hedren went after the children, this was the lane that they ran down in the movie from the schoolhouse. This is the schoolhouse here. I think you might remember that. You'll remember the buildings here, and there's the church over there. And they ran down this road here in the movie. I think you'll remember that. So I'm walking around here a little bit. It's just funny, you know, when I came here I didn't even realize I was in the town where they made the Birds movie, you know, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. So anyway, the school there is behind me. It's actually a house, but I guess they made it into a school at the time. And then I think this church was in the movie too, so let's take a look here. Sorry about the breeze, but you'll see part of the town here. That apparently they filmed quite a bit of it here in this part of the town that you'll see right down here. I'm not sure where the gas station is. That probably was a gas station they built for this, you know, like a set. But anyway, here we are. It's really funny to be here. So, like I say in that movie, when they go get the kids and they're running down by that picket fence right down there, that's where they're running. So I thought you'd want to see that. Yeah, it really gives you a different idea for the movie when you see it here again. So you know, you kind of see a little different perspective, you know. Having made a few movies myself, albeit very amateurishly, I understand some of the concepts involved. And just a little ending note here. Senator Ryan and Boner have both said that they're not going to push for impeachment of Obama. And of course there's all this politics, you know, the Democrats are really trying to do it, and you know, to make an issue with the Republicans. There's all kinds of information going on about whether or not an impeachment should proceed. And some are even saying that President Obama has not done anything that has risen to the level of high crimes and misdemeanors. Well, of course that's not true at all. But it just goes to show you that the political class now considers themselves the nobility, the privileged class that don't have to obey the laws or be held accountable for them, unlike the poor, you know, folks down on our level. You know, you spit on the street, or you skip a T on your tax return and forget the dot and I, and you know, they want to throw you in jail. So you know, if we haven't arrived at this feudalistic system yet, we are soon to be. But I think it's already here, and it's a really bad situation, because what that shows to the people that aren't in that privileged class is that law really doesn't matter at all. and that if the leaders can get away with it, why don't the rest of us try to do the same thing? So all hell's going to break loose. And finally, I wanted to mention about intelligence. You know, the CDC has used the Centers for Disease Control in this whole Ebola thing. Most of their projections are based on computer statistics, not on actual sampling, okay? And they build these computer programs basically to get the answer out that they want. I just want you to know that the intelligence community does the same thing. We're not relying as much on human anymore, basic information. We're relying on computer simulated programs for information. Garbage in, garbage out. You get in what you get out of it, what you put into it, and what you put into it is what you want to get out of it. In other words, you're telling the system what you want to be able to say. So this is a real problem. And again, I want to go back to this thing with President Obama and how that speech of his was dissected and patched back together to say what somebody wanted it to say. That's very similar to what's going on here. And I'm not of course defending Obama. I'm trying to show that it can happen to anyone. If it can happen to him, they can do it to us. So just be aware of that. And I'll leave that here for now. I know this video has been a long one, and I didn't really touch on a lot of the important issues, but we'll get there later. Thanks.